So we're going to get started. We're going to talk about AI governance. I'm going to spend some time going through the who, what, and why of AI governance. And then I'm going to turn it over to Kelly Cunningham on my team and Rachel Weeks on my team as well to take it to the next step and show you a little bit about what we're doing with AI governance and how we can help empower the AI revolution in your organizations. We will have some time at the end for questions and answers. So please, I don't see the chat. So Rachel or Kelly, if there's anything in the chat, if you can just chime in as well. But you should have co-host rights, Kelly and Rachel as well. So let's go in. So we're going to talk about what is governance, why governance, and specifically the AI risks, and why HR needs to be in the driver's seat. I'm really passionate about it, if you can tell. But let's start. How many of you use AI in your organizations today? I'm going to I think I could pop up the chat. So if you want to do something in the chat, like thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, a smiley face, sad face, put something in the chat if you're using AI already in your organizations today. Good, good. We got a couple thumbs up, couple smiley faces. If you're petrified of it, you can give me a scary face or a Halloween face. Not using it personally. Yep, so kind of not using it congruently across the organization. Not using it. Scott's using it, not yet. So it's a little mixed. Okay. All right, great. That's not uncommon. So how many of you, for those of you that are using it, have some form of governance in place for AI? And if you have governance, what does that look like? And feel free, you can jump in too if you want to talk about it. Silence. What's governance? Policy, risk management, oversight. Good, Donna. Use only Chat GPT. Okay. Is there anything with it? Like, do you have anything on Chat GPT? Like you can't put anything in there specifically, or just use Chat GPT?
No, it's left nebulous, so you just have to cross your fingers and hope you don't put something in there you shouldn't.
Yeah, cross your fingers.
That's the downside of it. I mean, I think people resist uh, putting in place governance because they think it's, treating their employees like children, but it's really like, hey, how am I gonna know whether something I put on here is gonna get me fired if you don't tell me what's allowed and what's not?
Yes. Yeah. And there are, I was on a call, I think we were on the Rebels call, right? This came up that companies are starting, I think Ann said it. I don't know if Ann's here, but companies are starting to fire people for AI use in
Yeah.
organizations. There was a SHRM article about it.
In,
But you're
in,
not the only one. I think companies are doing the let's cross our fingers as our
yeah.
strategy, right? For AI
Well, in
governance.
fairness, we don't have a lot of people. We don't have a lot of people, so that's
Hmm.
not. But when I worked for UKG, I mean, it was like the only allowed use of AI was their private licensed version of Chat GPT, which pretty well squelched anything that wasn't supposed to be used.
Yep. Right. So it's a bit of the wild, wild west with AI and with AI governance too. So we're not alone. So we're going to jump into what is AI governance. I'm going to close this so I can see what I'm talking about. So, and we've reached a critical inflection point in organizations today. AI has been around for a long time, but we're really starting to see it come to fruition in our organizations. And we're seeing this real need for a balance within the organization of balancing the technology and the human side of it, right? And HR is being tapped on the shoulders to lead this. And I think we are, as HR professionals, going, well, I'm not really sure what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to lead it. And so we have to give it a lot of strategic oversight and we have to think about it from both that standpoint of like the technology, but there's also a lot of human component to it where it's going to affect how we run our organization, how we staff our organization, how we recruit in our organization, how we do work in our organization, how we think about our organization in 5 years, how we upskill and reskill our organization. And there's things I'm not even talking about. But it's all in that HR realm. And that's why HR leaders are being tapped on the shoulders to lead this. About 42%, according to an IBM global study, and this is probably outdated, of organizations report actively deploying. And this is they're saying, I have a strategy for AI in some form. And then about another 28% are piloting or experimenting with AI solution. However, only about 27% of US organizations have established some type of AI ethics and governance frameworks. And that could be, I have a policy. It's a little bit more than cross your fingers and hope it works, but some kind of governance framework. So you're not alone if if you don't have governance. So when I say governance, what does that make you think of? What do you think I'm talking about with governance? What comes to mind?
To me, it means like the rules to follow.
Oversight, rules, yeah, keeping the train on the tracks. I like that, Donna. Yeah.
To me, it
Need
would be
additional
something
staff
that's
to
laid out.
manage. Sorry, Scott?
To me, it would be something that's laid out, that's a clear policy. These things are allowed, these things are not allowed. You can't share any of this. And, probably a little bit of an explanation because I use AI and I use it on a personal basis too. And I'm kind of a transparent guy. What you see is what you get. And I'm not real good at keeping things close to the vest unless somebody's told me this is confidential. But what we forget is anything you put out there in public domain, AI is fair game. I mean, they may have all kinds of stuff in their terms and conditions that say that they won't be able to trace it back to you, but that's basically a lie, as we know. So,
Right. And we had right before Halloween, right? We had Brian on the call from She and Finney, and he was saying anything you're putting in AI is discoverable, right?
yeah,
These
yeah,
we're using Fathom to record this call. If you're using Fathom in your work meetings, that's now discoverable, right? When if
yeah,
you get sued by an employee and you put something in there about like, can we fire John Smith because he's not doing his work fast enough and he's asked for ADA accommodations, that's now discoverable. So
but
exactly,
not to get
it's
too personal,
out in
but
the ether.
not
Hmm.
to get too personal, but one reason I thought about that is, as I shared just before we started, my ex-wife was a good friend, died last week, and a couple of months ago, she was just suffering so much with ALS, and she had said, well, I'm not going to write it out to the end. I'm going to do whatever I need to do, and I did some Chat GPT research because I'd heard that, while it's all well and good to say that you're going to, commit suicide, most people that try to commit suicide, it's not successful. They mess themselves up really badly, but they don't die. And so I did this research, and then I realized, oh my God, I've just put myself in a bad position here because that's all public domain. And
Hmm.
I offered to share it with her, and she said, no, I can go look it up myself, which I'm glad she said that.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm sorry about your ex-wife. I'm sorry you're dealing with that.
And Michelle, I think
And
the
by the
other
way,
thing,
she did not do herself in. It was natural.
the only other thing that I would say is entering proprietary information and putting the company at risk.
Yes. Yep. That's another
Yeah,
thing it is the same thing as it's out in the ether, right? When you're putting proprietary information out there. So yeah, governance is all of that that we were talking about. And so it's your policies, it's ethics, it's processes related to AI, it's responsible use, it's risk mitigation, it's guardrails, it's change management, and that's why HR is involved as well. It's controls, it's data protection, it's all of those things related to AI and more. And what governance does for us is it helps us create accountability. It helps us create transparency. Employees in our organization are worried about, and leadership is worried about how are we using AI in our organization and how are we making decisions in AI. There's a class action suit going on right now with an organization that I will leave unnamed, but they were making employment and performance decisions with their employees in a warehouse setting, and they were saying, you're not performing enough, you're not going to be employed with us anymore. And they were making decisions based upon what was coming out of the AI system, but it wasn't right. And so now their union is coming back and saying, you made inaccurate decisions and you're on the hook for it. And so, how are we making decisions based upon AI, and how are we using it, right? Are we being transparent in the use of AI? Risk management, risk from a legal standpoint, from an employment standpoint, from a trade secret standpoint, from an operational standpoint, compliance. Are we following the laws? Are we following our policies and things like that? And then ethical considerations. We've already seen the Workday lawsuit, right? That gets talked about a lot, where there's biases within the systems. And when you have these things with governance aligned, what you have is alignment. And when you don't have these things, what you put into AI and what you're asking AI doesn't always come out. There was a really funny picture I saw on LinkedIn yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, but there was, what you think AI is and what it actually is. And it was like this really good looking person in a suit. And then what it is, it was like this person with like bleached hair and like tattoos all over it. And it was like, it was totally a mismatch, what you think it is and what it actually is. And that's without governance, right? And that's the alignment problem. What you're asking AI to do and what it's doing may not be what you are expecting. And
The other
so,
thing that I'd offer here, Michelle, is,
yeah.
You've hit on it with a number of these things, but with ethical considerations and transparency is, telling your employees what you're using, how you're using it, and where it comes into decisions, because sometimes you've got consent issues, which then goes into compliance. So not only, are you trying to create trust with your employees by being transparent, but then, you also may have compliance, regulatory, legal considerations for needing to be super transparent about, what and how you're using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%, 100%. And the world is looking at us, HR professionals, and saying, okay, solve this problem, right? And we're going, well, nobody's telling us how to solve it, right? The government has come to us and said, we're not creating laws around it. Some states have created laws around it, but overall, there aren't any laws around it. We do have some standards within the EU, and there are some standards that we're following at HR Rebooted around NIST standards. But a lot of times, we kind of have to figure it out as we go, which is an HR thing anyways. But we do have to think about those things. And some additional risks. So there are legal and compliance risks. So there's discrimination through biased algorithms, right? Garbage in, garbage out, right? If there's things in the system that are biased, you're going to get biases based on that. So it does require human oversight and governance to make sure what you're getting out of the system is what you need to, what you're expecting and is not biased. You could have data privacy issues, data privacy breaches, regulatory non-compliance issues. There's reputational and financial risks, workforce and cultural risks. There are employees are already anxious about job displacements. I was talking to at the end of the soccer season here, my son's on varsity soccer, and I was talking to one of the other moms, and her son's a senior, and he's a really good soccer player. And I was saying, what is Vinny going to do next year? What is he thinking about for college? And what is he going to do? And she's like, I don't know. He's really torn because he doesn't want to go to college for a job that AI is going to take away. And he's a high school senior, and he's already thinking about being displaced by AI. So if he's thinking about it and he's not even in the workforce yet, what are our employees thinking about that are in the workforce? And so employees are thinking about it and nobody's talking to them about it. How do you think that's affecting morale and culture in the organization? It's a huge risk. And then operational and security risks. And we did talk about that last week. I don't know if anybody's on the call from that when we talked about how to talk to employees about that, about culture. But we also have operational security risks. unsanctioned AI use. So if you're telling your employees don't use it, they're using it. They're doing it under their desks. They're doing it on their phones, and they're throwing trade secrets in on their own phones, on their own personal devices. If you're telling them what to use but not how to use it, they might be putting trade secrets in or other information in there. And so, or they're using it in a way that creates a lack of transparency, even a lack of transparency in how it's being used, but then also similar to what Donna was saying, a lack in transparency in decision making. How did you get to that decision? How are you saying that I'm underperforming? How did you get to that decision? Help me understand, right? Oh, the system told me. Here are some examples of some of those biases, those risks that we talked about. So we have the Workday lawsuit that came up. There is some EEOC's decision making. The EEOC has come out and said that if you're using a tool, and this was years ago actually, that if you're using an AI system that has bias and it creates an illegal discrimination, you're on the hook because you're not overseeing it. Compliance with AI regulations. The government's proposing passing new laws and regulations in the use of AI in employment. There are already regulations within the EU. So if you're working globally, you have to pay attention to those. Data and security protection. I am really a big believer that AI has to own this. You do have to link arms with other departments. So you will have to bring IT in on how do we make sure that we're being smart on data security. My favorite here is the McDonald's case where they were using a chat bot, I think her name was Chloe, to interview applicants. So applicants would apply through Chloe. Chloe would interview them. So they're applying, so filling out the application, all of that through Chloe. I may get her name wrong, so I apologize. And they would go through the interview. So all of their personal information is being entered into this chat bot. They're interviewing, they're filling out all of their new hire paperwork, all this stuff. The system password was 12345 and they got hacked. So that thousands of people lost all of their personal information because the system was not governed appropriately. And you also have to think about automation and workers' rights, right? We have to think about how are employees being treated. How are we, are people's employment decisions? It's the same thing with that company I was talking about. They were making employment decisions based upon AI data. And do they have the right to appeal that? In a union environment, are you following the rules? I thought this was an interesting quote to share. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei said AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and spike unemployment up to 20% within the next 5 years. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy said the last month with AI will reduce our total corporate workforce over the next few years as the company begins to need fewer people doing some of the jobs that are being done today and more people doing other types of jobs. Earlier this year, Shopify CEO Toby Lutke said, also posted a memo that he sent his team saying that budget for new hires would only be granted for jobs that cannot be automated by AI. We're already seeing disruption. I know some companies are just going way overboard and like wiping out jobs with AI without really having a rhyme or reason. And some people are being much more strategic about it. So it's again a little bit of the wild, wild west, but we're already seeing this disruption in the workplace with AI. And so it's causing anxiety with employees, it's causing cultural issues. And HR is really at a key point, and this just is the same thing, so I'm going to skip that. HR is at a key point for this, and HR has a really great opportunity here. This is the first time in my time in HR history, where we have the opportunity to take something on that hasn't been tossed on us because we don't want it, because there's nowhere else to go. This actually belongs in HR. And this is something I think we have the opportunity to take the strategic seat that we've been asking for years. We have an exciting opportunity to harness AI. I believe that we will step away from the chief human Resources Officer and become the Chief Human and AI Resource Officer. Because we have all the tools to do this and lead the shift with AI. We have to link arms with other departments, but HR really needs to lead it. And we're going to lead it through governance. And why? This is the question I get because this is a soapbox I stand on that HR has to lead AI governance. And everybody says, why not IT? And this is why. Because we have the people-centric expertise. We have the insight into the workforce dynamics. We know how we have the global thinking. We know how each department depends on other departments. We know how the whole workforce works, and we know how the different interdependencies work across the organization. And so we have that ability and that unique insight into the organization. And we also have the relationships already built and established across the organization and across all the different levels. There was a really great white paper that came out from Predictive Index. And if you want a copy of it, I can send it out, or I can add it to the newsletter this week along with this presentation. But it talks about the trust that HR professionals have in the organization. And that employees are actually leaning on that trust during this AI transformation because they are going to HR and saying, what's going to happen to my job? And how are we using AI? And how is AI being used in decision making? And how are we going to govern AI? And so they're already looking to HR because of that. So that people-centric expertise is really important. We already have the compliance and risk management skill set in our tool belt. The HR department already manages employment law and compliance. This is an employment law and compliance piece. They're going to turn to us to lean on that. We have the existing frameworks for discrimination prevention and bias mitigation. We already have the tools to build the training and development for risk mitigation. We have the experience with auditing, record keeping, and regulatory reporting. We already have those things in place. We have the strategic partnership. We understand change management. We've led the charge in change management. And we have the cross-functional collaboration skills and business acumen for development. So we already have all of these skill sets in place. You don't have to bring somebody else in to do it. You don't have to give it to a different department and learn all those things. HR already has that built in. See, Kelly, I told you I'd be ahead of schedule. So we have, at HR Rebooter, we've built a 7-step process to manage governance and to help give you the tools to lead during this transformation with confidence. And so Kelly's going to walk you through that. And are you ready, Kelly? Because I'm ahead of schedule. I can't hear you or see you.
Kelly, you're on mute.
Okay. I'm not on mute anymore. So, okay, I'm ready to get started.
Great.
Okay, I will share my screen. Can everybody see this? It should be the login screen for
Got it.
I
for
can see it.
Governance
Yep.
First.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the login screen for our Governance First platform. And when a company signs up for the platform, they will essentially give us a bunch of emails of the people they want in the system. We take the emails, we create a whitelist of folks who can create new accounts. And so then they can just simply log into the system by just going to create an account, fill in the information and say, create an account. And so it's pretty easy onboarding of employees. They once they create the account, they'll get an email that tells them, you know, you can log into the system. And so I already have that, so I'm going to log into the system right now. Okay. So once they sign in, they'll see these options, and I'm going to give you the demo on the AI roadmap, and AI Compass will make a little bit of an appearance there, but we'll get to that. But the AI roadmap is the part of the platform that allows a company to start essentially formalizing AI governance, and that is creating an infrastructure that allows companies to start taking control of AI usage in their company. And why don't we get that started? When I click it, the application loads. In this case, because I'm a super admin, I can edit everybody's stuff if I needed to, just for support purposes. So, but there's only one company in this organization in the platform right now, and that's us. So we start
Kelly, I
with
got a
that.
question. Could you expand your screen to make that bigger?
You know what? Let me pull it down to the other screen. That might help. Does that help?
Now we just see your background on the other screen.
I'm sorry.
We
You're
see
just seeing the back.
We just see your trees, your background. on
Oh,
the screen.
okay. So you're not. So it didn't go here. Let me. In order to do that, I need to basically reshare it. So. Okay. I'll just. Okay, so. Can you see it now?
Yep. Oh, that's better. Perfect.
I better.
Good.
Okay. All right. So as I said, the application loads, and just getting where I was. Okay, so the AI roadmap, the idea is that it takes the company through the 7 steps for AI governance that Michelle mentioned. And the steps are based on the emerging standards for AI governance, specifically from the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And the NIST standard, that standard is being referenced in more and more state laws. And I would suspect, and once the federal government gets into the process, that it's going to reference the NIST standards also. And the state, like I said, the states are referencing, they're trying to figure out a way to keep up with the pace of the AI revolution, and the NIST standards offers that. So our platform is based on the NIST standards, just to make sure everybody understands that. Excuse me. So the first thing in governance is you have to establish that standing AI governance committee. And so for this example, that's what this is. And once you use the platform to establish your committee, to add your committee, you can then add members as well as meetings to the committee. So members, this one, it just simply add the members and identify their role in the committee. And I could go, and it basically gives me a list of the employees that have been registered in the system, and then I could just add that member. Oop. I think I have to put a share there. I'm not sure what that's happening there, so I'm not going to dwell on it. So I've already added the two members here, and then after you add the members, you can add the meetings, and we have a stand-in weekly meeting for this. And after you add the meetings, you can then add the agenda to a meeting, for a specific meeting. You can add decisions made at the meetings, and you can also add action items. So, don't have time to take everybody through all these various options, but as I said, if you schedule a meeting, the meeting is then emailed to whoever is attending, and they can add it to their calendar and all that stuff all automatically. So that's the that's the first one. And again, it depends on the company size, exactly how many committees they might want, but we do provide templates that essentially let them set up any different types of boards. You know, there's all different kinds of things. Again, depending on the company size, you might want an ethics board, you might want a data privacy committee, you might want a compliance panel, you might want a risk assessment. It just depends on how much you're using AI and how big the company is. Whether or not you have just one committee, you know, smaller companies will probably just have one committee, but all companies should establish at least that one standing governance committee. And that's what the tool allows. Okay. Okay, so the next step is risk management. And this step is in fact the most complicated of the 7 steps. So because it consists of 2 parts. First, it consists of identifying the use case that the AI is going to be used with. So we have a lot. We have, I think it's about 30,000 use cases already pre-formatted in the tool. And you look it up and you can find the use case that basically resembles how you're using the AI. And then you can associate that with certain risks in certain data types. So just to give you a real quick example, these risks have been identified as possibly belonging to this use case. So, and again, you can, if you go through this, for adding a risk, you basically can identify, these are all your risk categories, if you will, that whether it's a financial risk, a compliance risk, a data privacy risk. So if we do that, then you get a subcategory where you can decide on, you know, what type of risks drill down really as. So is it data quality? And then you could identify any particular risk that basically pertains to how you're using the system. So that's what happened. So we just added one risk there. In this little thing here shows you how the impact in the potential impact in the potential likelihood of this risk. So just a thumbnail view of this risk here is it's not a great risk. This risk here is a little more of a risk within this scenario. So, and so you can add those risks. Also add data types. And what that essentially, it's easier if I go and add one, because you can see this basically says what type of data is being used in this use case. So for instance, if we said health information is being used in this risk case, then we would know that for our safeguards, we need to protect against health information slipping out of the you know, however the AI is being used, that they don't in fact release personal information out to the public. So these are the ways you identify the data type that's being used in the use case, and that helps you later on identify risks as well. So that's the third step. Like I said, that one is a little complicated and will require some, you know, more in-depth training on. The next step is documentation, and so here it's just a matter of adding documents. You can upload your file, and you know, then you add all the information related to the file, and then you can add it. You can see we have quite a few added already, and this is also where you would prepare the document to be referenced by the AI in it, or by the AI essentially. And so there's 2 ways for the AI to reference a document. It can reference it based on keywords, and it can reference it semantically. If you set it up so that you want it referenced in keywords, you would say, okay, what are the keywords they want to be able to look for in this document? So, and this also provides a way for humans to search the document too, you know, based on these keywords. Now, semantic indexing, or vector indexing, which is the other way, what that does is it translates the document into the same language used by the AI, so that the AI can then understand not just the keywords in the document, but also the context in the semantics of the document. It's a much more in-depth understanding of the document. And this is where you would do that. You could set it up for semantic indexing. These documents, this symbol indicates that that document's been semantically indexed. Here, if you wanted to do that, you would have to vector index the document here. And if I do that, this will enable and so now that document has been vector indexed, and it is more accessible via the AI. So, and that's the next step after the documents is the training. So the training that we've put together is pretty basic and simple, but it's also fairly robust. And what you can do is you can upload either something to read, something to listen to, or something to watch. So basically words, podcast, or video. And you can upload that, and you can also create exams. And then you can link the exams to particular training. So you might create, for instance, something that can be read on the same topic. You might create something you can read, something you can listen to, and something you can watch based on the person's individual preference and what they have time to do. And then you can associate the test, the one test that you created for this, with all of these ways to look at the material. So, and you can take the exam, and this would be the exam. And once you take it and you submit it, the fact that you took it will be recorded, as well as your score. So that is something that managers can in fact see if their directs are in fact doing the training that they need to be done. So that's training. And the next step is the safeguards. So we have 5 safeguards that we're focused on. And what the idea of the safeguards is it prevents what Michelle described as junk in, junk out. So the idea here is that guardrails, they're little pieces of text that essentially provide additional instructions to the AI on how to do things. And these are instructions that whoever's doing, like typing in a prompt, they might not think of all these things, but there are a lot of things to consider depending on how you're using it. So the guardrails here, this calls an extra one. So you can see that, for instance, in it, probably the best example to use for you guys would be human resources. And you can see that, okay, let's talk about compliance and legal. And so this gives you little snippets of additional instructions for the AI that you can use, and you can see that'll help you focus the AI and keep it aligned with whatever the prompt is asking it to do. It basically prevents drift. It increases the focus. It makes sure it doesn't hallucinate. It does all the things that you probably have heard that AI can do that is bad. So that's why you keep these additional things. In these, you can tell it to avoid making legal record. Again, you go through these and you wouldn't necessarily think about them, but they're really important when you really want to focus the AI and keep it from even using junk in, but also producing junk out. So I'm going to go back here. The next rail is the usage auditing. Now, the usage auditing here is also very simple. It is you can essentially add what happened when you use the AI. You can put in the prompt, and you can put in the response, model used, impact, and so on. So that way, every time you use your AI for business, you would then put that information in there. Now, the thing is, that it's really critical. I mean, you can't really track how things are going with the AI usage if you don't have a way to record what you've done. So this provides one way. The better way will be really to have it completely automated, and that is a reference to the AI Compass tool that we will also be offering later on. So, but excuse me, should have. So the usage auditing, that's a kind of rudimentary way of getting in what you've done with the prompts and what the results were so that you can track it. But a better way is to have a completely automated system, which is what the AI Compass will provide. The other thing is the incident tracking and response, and this is something that HR Rebooted is doing on a global level, if you will. And so we have put up an incidents tracking thing, and anybody who wants to report an AI incident can report an AI incident. And this is for any company in the world or anybody who uses it. This way we can gather statistics about usage and how people are seeing it. But also for an individual company, you can also use this to report an individual company AI incident. And then as long as you put in the company, that company can then track those incidents that's happening with its company, but it can also compare the incidents against what other companies are seeing. So that's another tool that we have for essentially making sure that the AI governance is going the way that a company wants it to go. Okay, the next step is monitor and improve. And on this step, what this is this step allows the user to create widgets that are essentially intended for like dashboards and so on. Now you can create, a user can see any of the data that we collect. Any data that the system collects can be reported on via the monitoring and improve system. So if you want to track how many incidents have we had that have really been high risk or high impact, you can do that. You can create it. And if like a CEO or something says, hey, I only want to know if something really bad happens, if an AI incident happens, you can create that. And then you can also use this code down here to embed the widget on their desktop. So they can basically see the part of the system that they're really interested in constantly monitoring. So you can, like I said, you can create a widget. You can see select the table. These are all the tables of information that we're collecting. The use cases, the governance, the risks, the use case risks, the auditing, and so on. And then you would see what data, and then you would pick the data you want to report to. Then you could do filters on the data, and then you can visualize the data and so on. So let me just go. So in the visualizations, you can do like a table, a bar chart, line chart, pie chart, so on. So that's what, again, the main idea here is that you will pick what you want to monitor and keep an eye on, and so that you can figure out how to improve as you see the data that tells you how you're doing. So it's very flexible, and you can, like I said, create a dashboard widget for anything. Okay, so the last and final step is this. So sorry, I'm just getting my so when a company is ready to turn the AI governance structure they create using the roadmap into something that will help them grow and scale, it'll help them, when they're ready to do that, and to further minimize the risk and optimize AI use for productivity. These are some of the tools, as well as some of the services that HR Rebooted can in fact offer other companies. So I've mentioned Compass, I showed you the incident portal. We have a gap analysis survey, and we have an AI leadership survey. All those are accessible through the platform. But in addition to that, HR Rebooted is leading this effort to really get AI governance instituted in companies. And so we can provide the consulting needed to not only training on our tools, but just for how do you go about doing this? How do you go about implementing AI governance? How do you go about getting employee buy-in? And how do you go about optimizing AI usage and tracking AI usage? And that's what we do. And so that's what we are all about. So I would, you can take advantage of not just the tools, but also our services, as companies, use AI more and more and more. All right, I'm done. I'm done. So
Thank you, Kelly.
that's
This was
yep.
great. What Kelly failed to mention that I want to make sure we point out, because he did a really good job of building this, is the AI Guardrails Hub. We have the largest library of guardrails. I think that's really worth pointing out. I'm going to turn it over to Rachel. Rachel's our CMO, and she's going to talk about joining our beta. And Rachel, I
I
can't
can't
hear
hear
you, so
you.
maybe on mute.
You're muted, Rachel.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm off mute. Also, we just see the Zoom screen. Now we see someone's calendar. So we'll work on that. But it's a pleasure to be here. I've been here the past couple of HR Rebels calls, so I see some familiar faces. I'm not sure if anyone recognizes me or not. I was just a lurker. But I'm really excited to be joining HR Rebooted. Kelly has built a phenomenal product, and we're really excited to bring it to market. And Michelle is a visionary, and she and I have worked together before, and so I'm really excited to be working with her again. But all that said, we are really excited to announce our Governance First beta program. And what the beta program is it's an opportunity for you to get your hands on the product and give us feedback. Nothing more than that. So we would really love if anyone who is interested, you can scan the QR code on the slide that you see, and that'll take you to a very short form that comes to me with your contact information. You could also email me directly at rachel@hrrebooted.com. And we're planning on launching the beta program at the beginning of December. And we envision giving you access to the product for, originally I said 30 days, but because the holidays and everything are in there, we're going to give it 40 days. So if you kick off in December, you'll have the opportunity to use the roadmap through December and into January. And, Michelle and I will be there with you to hold your hands as much or as little as you want. And like I said, what we're really looking for is your feedback. And how do we make this product useful, valuable, and, at some point, hopefully something that you can't live without. So I would be really excited for the opportunity to work with any of you who are interested. And like I said, you can fill out the form. You can send me an email. I'm sure you probably also know how to reach Michelle if for some reason you can't do either of those things or you don't remember. But we really look forward to getting this product out into the hands of HR rebels like you, and really creating something that can add value in this era of AI that we're all going through together, and just figuring out how to do it and how to control it.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
We're very excited about this, and we wanted to launch with the Rebels before opening it up to anybody else. So you'll see a press release tomorrow. So we're not sharing it with anybody until we shared it with the Rebels first. So, but now we're opening it up to questions. So does anybody have any questions either about governance in general or about what we showed you or talked about? And you can feel free to just go off mute and ask questions, or put them in the chat.
I'll ask a question if that's okay of the
Go
group.
for it.
What are your thoughts on all of this? Just initial reactions. I did see a couple in the chat. the
I'll
roadmap.
pipe in. So this is Donna. This is so incredible. Michelle, I don't know how you accomplished everything that you accomplished with all of the different things you're involved in. But I think this is number one, the amount of work that's been done is pretty mind-blowing. But I think in I do some consulting on AI adoption and implementation as well. And I think this gives potentially a way to operationalize that consulting in a way that's really meaningful to our clients, rather than, building something from scratch. Or, in my case, as I was thinking, all right, so if I'm on the front end and we're, making sure you've got governance and all the rest of that good stuff, and you're identifying your use cases, my interaction, the way I've imagined it, sort of stops there, unless I'm following them through some of the use cases. But this gives access to a platform, and it sounds like you guys are doing your own AI agent as well, coming soon, but gives a way to operationalize that and to help continue to support companies as they're going through the different challenges. Because it's one thing to say, well, you need a governance committee. All right, well, and then you can, put together a nice PowerPoint. But if you've got a platform where you're really making that actionable and you're setting the expectation that the committee is doing the following things and meeting in the following ways, I just think it makes things a little bit more sticky and more powerful, as well as more professional. So hats off for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. I
That's
couldn't
great
have done it
feedback.
without Kelly and Rachel. They've both been working around the clock to get to this point and holding my feet to the fire. But yeah, there will be, so this is our roadmap piece, which is the governance piece, and then the compass piece, which Kelly alluded to, is the AI piece, which sits on top of your A, which will then apply the governance to it. So a lot of those guardrails and the safeguards we talked about and your policies will make sure all of that happens within the AI tool itself.
Michelle, the most exciting part of this whole presentation, I think, or I should say one of them, is your pretty compelling point about how HR really can lead this, because from my limited experience, it seems like nobody's really owning it right now, especially for smaller companies. So I do think for HR professionals, I think this is a really exciting time if you want to lean into it.
Yeah, I agree, Stephanie. And I do think, AI is going to help us. I remember, Stephanie, you and I had a conversation during COVID, and I think about it often, where it was like we got sucked into COVID and
Yeah.
it was all the stuff, I'm going to say it nicely, all the stuff we didn't want to do, right? We
Yeah.
got into all this administrative stuff that we didn't want to do, we didn't want to focus on, and we all got burnt out and we hated it. And AI
Yep.
is going to take all of that away, and it's going to give us the opportunity to step into a strategic seat that we really get excited about. And it's either going to be step up or step out. And this is
Yeah.
the opportunity for HR to really take that seat and own it. And I think AI governance, and HR being the strategic leader and saying, I can do this, and I can marry the HR piece, HR human resources with AI resources, I think is going to be a win-win for organizations and for HR.
And I am blown away by this tool. It's so well thought out, and way more robust than I had anticipated. So it's great.
Thank you, Stephanie.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Ah,
You ain't seen nothing yet.
We do have a document, the 7 steps of AI governance too, that we can include in the newsletter that highlights the 7 different steps and how we can help you along the way with those 7 steps. And it just highlights the 7 steps that are in the tool, but it goes through like how you think about the 7 steps.
So while someone else is thinking of a question, I did see something in the chat. It says, do we have enough data points to have a point of view on which AI engines are better than others? So I've used them extensively. So I have a point of view, and I will briefly tell you that I think that just general things, chat rules the roost. I think if you want to do design and coding, you know, which is what I do, I use Claude and Gemini a lot, and I use Chat some, but I use that. I think it depends on the field as much as anything else on what you're doing with them, because some things have a better view, like a better 10,000-foot view, but then when you ask it to do the details, it's not as good as, you know, others. So that's kind of like my experience, the demarcation of where things break down with one eye versus AI versus the other AI. So
Claude for me is like a sounding board. It's like when I need to have a conversation and tell me what, like, poke holes in this and tell me what I'm doing wrong and what I'm like, what am I missing? And then chat is my, like, read this and make it better. That's how I use them.
And I would
Yeah.
throw in that Perplexity is fantastic for deeper research.
Yeah. And then I use Pop AI sometimes for PowerPoint. Doesn't always get it right. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm underwhelmed. And Shutterstock is good for the Gen AI. So it's a mishmash.
yeah, the AI definitely does not get it right when it comes to coding all the time. I mean, you know, it's good and it's really super fast, but it does definitely make mistakes. So it's just another area of AI governance that needs to be paid attention to.
The other thing I'm going to do too, I'm going to be brave here, is I'm going to throw my calendar link in too, because Heidi, I know you said you're going to a meeting and about AI governance. If you want to throw some time on my calendar, I'm going to throw it in here. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those questions. The beta program too, for anybody in the beta program that wants to join the beta program, it's free to join. There's no cost other than your time. So I encourage you to join it. The more the merrier. We're looking for feedback. So please go in, as Kelly says, bang around in the system and you know, give us your feedback. For those of you that are super detail oriented, this is for you. To get in there and play with it and give us your feedback and let us know. Those of you that are doing governance, even as a consultant, would be great too. If you want to try it with a couple of your clients, that would be great too. Donna, I know you were saying you do this with your clients. Let's test it out with them. So you don't have to be a full-time practitioner either. So it's open to everybody. Everybody HR Rebel.
Yes, thank you for mentioning there is no cost, Michelle. I should have made clear.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We do not have a meeting next week or the following week because of the holidays. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. If you see our announcement tomorrow on LinkedIn, I would love it if you like it and share it. I feel like a YouTuber right now. But please like it and share it. And then we'll see you back here in early December for more AI talks. This one, I think we're going to be talking about immigration. That'll be a good one. Immigration and management, I think, are lined up in December. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everybody.
Thanks for taking the
Thank
time.
you.
Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, guys.